You're watching NFT Talk with Brick Astley. GM, welcome to NFT Talk. I'm your host, Brick Astley. The purpose of this talk show is to talk one-on-one art on exchange art. Today's guest is a hologram collage artist from Super Rare, Known Origin Foundation, and she's got an amazing collection here on exchange art. Rebecca Rose, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to be able to talk with you about your work on and off the blockchain.
GM, thank you so much, Brick. This is a huge honor to be involved with the show. And yeah, just really excited to talk all things NFTs with you this morning.
Hey, thank you. The honor's all here on this side of the screen. Let's kick things off. For those that might be meeting you for the first time, can you give us a little bit of background of your art, your artistic creativity before the blockchain, and then what brought you to exchange art?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going way back to the mid-90s. I started doing analog collage with like paper, glue, scissors, and I did that for a few years. And then the analog collage turned into digital collage, believe it or not, when I started university, and I had one of those giant like HP Dell computers. So I was doing some digital collage on that. So yeah, that was like 1998, 1999. And then in the year 2000, the digital collage transformed into sculptural collage. As you can see, collage is always like the foundation of my work, no matter which direction it goes. And so I started doing sculptural collage where like I would kind of take found objects and carve into burnable objects and organic materials and compose them together to where they could be wearable. So they were big, but yet still small, kind of like thinking about different types of sculpture. This all ties into NFTs, by the way. So like thinking about different types of sculpture and how we can redefine sculpture in that, like, it's not just an immovable stationary object, but something that can travel with its owner and affect change like on the go. And so I did that for about 18, 20 years and showed like all over the globe and had work at the Whitney Museum of American Art and won some pretty, substantial like awards and grants and residencies, and just a really amazing, huge chapter of my artist career. And then in 2015, I had noticed that there was a bit of an obstacle with my work because it had this wearable element. Like a lot of collectors wanted to try it on to help inform, their decision-making process, whether they want to go through with purchasing or collecting it. Being that they were made of like precious materials, I was a little hesitant to, send the piece, halfway across the globe, either hoping that they, follow through with collecting it or trusting them to return it back. So I saw this obstacle as an opportunity to solve. And so I was like, well, how can I emulate that trying on experience with my collage work, but virtually? And so that's when I started doing holograms of my sculptural collages, was to problem solve, this obstacle. So I started making, this was back in 2015, I started making quad split holographic MP4s of my sculptures. And, back then, I think only one NFT was, done back then, the quantum NFT in 2014. NFTs weren't on the radar for me back then. So I started, just sending out these MP4 files and, shipping like the quad split holographic pyramid. So that way they could see what the sculpture looks like in real life and shove their hand up inside and see like the holographic version of that sculptural collage on their hand before buying it. So I was doing that for a while, and then COVID hit and things just kind of went topsy-turvy. In addition to like my professional art career, I was also lead artist and manager at Walt Disney Company. So, and I did that for 18 years. And when COVID hit, like my whole department got axed. And so that was a big upheaval. And I started to really lean into my art practice more, and especially like the digital aspect of it. So kind of like rewind to the beginning, late 2020 is when I, really started to kind of like hear about NFTs more. And then in early 2021 is when, I did a lot of like personal research and started teaching myself, how to open a MetaMask wallet, and joining a lot of like Clubhouse rooms early on, talking about NFTs. And I'm like, I've been doing digital versions of my artwork for so long, like let's incorporate this new technology in with, this facet of my career. So yeah, I started doing like going back to like my collage roots, and doing more digital collage, but also keeping that quad split holographic NFT format, which I think I might be the only one doing that format, which in itself is a bit of a struggle, because it's kind of like, if you're the only one doing it, it's harder to make a splash sometimes, or it's harder to, it's, if you have a movement, it's a lot easier. But if you're, if you're like this lonely little crazy person doing something way out of left field, it's a little harder. But I'm passionate about it, and that's definitely like where my focus is. So long story short, sorry, I started minting on OpenSea in early March of last year. That moved to Foundation, that moved to Known Origin. And it was around like September of 2021 where I started hearing about Solana NFTs. And I'm like, this is really interesting. Like, it took me a while to kind of get the concept of like, the Solana ecosystem. The concept of like jumping, like crossing chain, I had already kind of like experimented with Tezos earlier last summer. So like going cross chain to me wasn't an issue. It was more like, like, is this a clean chain, or is this like a, what are we talking here? Is it as, expensive as ETH is? So I did a lot of research and started looking at the platforms, and it wasn't until December of 2021 where I found Holoplex. And so I minted 3 works there, and those works found collectors. And then I had stumbled into a Twitter space about exchange, and I'm like, wow, this sounds interesting. It's a one-of-one, like a platform dedicated just to one-of-one artists, and it's on Solana, and it and so I started minting. Like, I started minting this this giant saga, if you will, like this huge storyline of works that, each work is like a chapter in a greater storyline, and while keeping with that that holographic, digital aspect of it, like, and this is where I was talking about earlier, like redefining sculpture. So like having that quad split holographic NFT component as an airdrop companion piece to like the digital collage one-of-one is important, and something that, I'm still going to continue doing, primarily because it helps us rethink about like how digital artwork can be displayed in our IRL situations and in the physical space. And, can pixels be sculpture? Can, like in real life, can pieces of light, like when we talk about like digital art in a physical space, we're really playing with light and beams of light. Like, how can light be that sculpture, or like how can light turn sculptural? So it's kind of all like interconnected regarding like, how I started and where I am now.
That's such an interesting story of like going from the physical collages, starting there, and then as like technology increases, you're picking up these digital tools to be able to produce these artworks. Um, can you tell me about how you got the idea of turning the digital into a hologram? I think that's so novel, that's so groundbreaking, and like I think more people should be doing it because, you know, like you're saying, it's how can we make the digital a sculpture? How can we make it feel physical, look physical in our real world, and displaying it in our houses beyond just like those you know, frames, digital frames? How did you come up with the idea of the holograms, and how did you create the follow through of creating a hologram? Because you kind of almost think about hologram from like a future sci-fi movie. So I think it's so wonderful it ties in with like your sci-fi work here.
Yeah, so it's like early on, like in those clubhouse rooms when we were all kind of trying to figure out, you know, NFTs, and um, it. I realized early on, like just by going through platforms and looking at NFTs myself, I'm like, all of us are currently only like limited to viewing NFTs off of flat device screens, and I'm like, that's not going to be enough for us. Like as time goes on, as time moves forward, we're going to grow less tolerant to just viewing NFTs on, you know, a flat device screen, and we're gonna expect or crave something more, something beyond that. And like the concept of you know, having the NFT play on the device and then pairing it with the pyramid so that it becomes that like IRL digital sculpture, like hologram, that is talking about like ways where we can lift the NFT off that flat device screen and in a three-dimensional sense in our physical space. So I think as time goes on, like, yeah, we're going to grow increasingly less tolerant of like, you know, oh, I'm just looking at this work of art on a flat screen. It's just a, you know, we're gonna crave something more than that. And like with, how do I put this? So like with playing with light, it's one thing for like the device to kind of like present light to us. But as an artist, like experimenting with, you know, how to play with the light that creates that NFT, and like whether it be projected onto like floating vaporized particles, or so it becomes a hologram like that way, or single plane holograms, quad split holograms, which I love doing, and also like anamorphically distorting the source imagery, like the NFT, in like an anamorphically distorted way, and then pairing it with a cylindrical shape so the hologram appears like you know, as you've seen in those sci-fi movies. So it's funny that you bring up like sci-fi movies, because I'm very influenced by like Star Trek and Star Wars, and all of like our well, at least like my core film like growing up. So a lot of the titles of the works are actually inspired by titles from Star Trek series, as like a way that I can kind of like pay homage to like that introduction of holograms into like our cultural zeitgeist.
I think that's so interesting. What so what is it about sci-fi that attracts you
Oh my
to that?
gosh. The possibilities, like the beauty about sci-fi, and I'm really going to get kind of dorky here, is that like it's so limitless. Like we talk about like the Web3 space being, you know, boundaryless and limitless, and that in turn, like it's all sci-fi to me, you know, but we're making that fantasy, that fiction part, like a reality, with the tech and the science and the innovation behind, everything that's happening. And that's what excites me. I love that. Like there's going to be, like, we're in Web3 right now. There's going to be a Web4, there's going to be a Web5. And I get chills like thinking about it, imagining it, because like, will those next iterations reflect like movies of the past, or like scenes of the past, or things we haven't yet even imagined, of course. But like when I think about us trying to enter our physical selves into the digital realm, like through the metaverse, I see it as like a two-way street. And like we should be even more focused, or not more focused, equally focused about like how to bring the digital sphere into our physical space, beyond what we're used to right now. So maybe that means like a holodeck. Maybe that means like, us being able to pull the metaverse, into our physical space, where we have like, the suits, and, we can feel, if we run into a tree, like we can feel the tap on our nose, or have like a physical response, like a biological response to like what's happening in the digital, like physical space. Like that stuff is what excites me, like Web4, Web5. So like, and I kind of, yeah, I kind of credit like working at Disney for so long in like an artistic capacity, because they're kind of like, it's kind of drilled into our heads to not only think about like what's happening now in the present, but to imagine what could be and what could be next, and to think about how to achieve that. So like, that's one of the reasons why I'm really into, pulling NFTs off of flat device screens, thinking about new and innovative ways that we can engage with NFT works, as well as like, yeah, just Web4, Web5, Web20,
Yeah, it seems like you're interested in pushing those boundaries to bridge those gaps, to bring Web4, Web5 here. And a question now that I have on that is there a point there's going to be where we can't distinguish reality from the Web4, Web5s? What do you see in that regard?
It's so interesting to think about. Maybe that's Web 10, where it's like maybe Web 8 or Web 9 is when we have that like uncanny valley part of like the hybrid like metaverse and physical coexistence. And then maybe Web 10 is where it's like episodes of Upload, or episodes of like, well, Black Mirror is very, it shows like the terrible side of technology, which we have to consider too. But yeah, it's scary and exciting about what's possible. Yeah,
We're
but I
excited.
think it's going to happen.
It's going to happen sooner or later. And something that I've noticed about technological trends is that it doesn't slow down. It only seems to speed up and speed up and speed up. So Web 4 and 5, they're just around the corner. They're like half a decade away. We're in Web 3 right now. Web 4 and 5 might even be here, sooner than we expect.
Yeah. I hope we're all alive to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about bridging traditional art into Web3. You're a traditional artist by trade. What advice would you give to someone that's from the traditional art world, breaking into Web3 and maybe coming to exchange art?
That's a really good question. Um, expect, or not expect, be prepared for a lot of manageable hurdles and manageable struggles. Maybe not struggles, but just things that are different, that move differently, like in the Web3 space compared to the traditional art world, which can be both good and bad. But like if you're hoping to have like one foot in each world, and then kind of like, it's it'll best suit the artist who can. Let me backtrack. All right, so when I entered like NFTs, a lot of the conversation and dialogue was about like, oh, we'll no longer need the galleries, we'll no longer need the traditional art world, like that old world is dead, like we don't need it. But like there again, like thinking outside the box, like it doesn't have to be an either or, it can be a both. It can be a way where, I mean, like we were talking about with hybridization, like the coexistence of like, IRL brick and mortar galleries and established institutions, like joining the Web3 space, and like where that hug with open arms happens on both sides. That's when we're going to start to see like a lot more mass adoption in the arts. That's when we're going to see a lot more understanding on both sides, and like really experimenting like with the tech from like an arts institution standpoint. So like if you're an artist in that position where you have like one foot in each world, talk with your gallerists. Like if they don't know about Web3, set up a Zoom, like show them, walk them through how to open like a MetaMask or a Phantom wallet or a Temple wallet, like walk them through like the basics and the foundation of like keeping their wallets secure and safe. Walk them through like what, not like deep dives unless you have the time to, but like give them an understanding of like what smart contracts are, what they mean, like how the gallerist can benefit from that as well as the artist. Because I really think like the mentality of like, oh, we don't need the galleries anymore. Some artists won't need the galleries, but some artists will. Like not every artist is able to do it on their own, and to have a bigger group of people working together is only going to help, a lot more people, I think. So there are a lot of like challenges, but they're manageable. And having those hard conversations, with gallerists, there have been times where, I'll set up a Zoom, and some galleries are interested, and they want to know more, and they're a little more apt to like adopt. And then there are some gallerists that are just like, I'm not ready yet, let's not even go there, we'll have a conversation at another time, which is fine too. Everybody will enter Web3 in their own pace, but Web3 is here no matter what, so it's inevitable.
It's gonna stick around until we get to Web4, huh?
Yep.
And then we'll be pulling people in from Web3 into Web4. No, you got to come into this augmented reality, experience the hologram from within the hologram.
Seriously, like isn't it the case? Like even from it's all about like change and adapting and pivoting, and even like going, like being born into ETH and being adopted by Solana. Like it's a lot of people that I've spoken with that are like ETH artists, they're not ready to move over yet. They will in time, but it's just they're not ready yet. So it really does take like a lot of change and willingness to adapt and pivot in smart ways, for sure.
Well, it's kind of hard to pivot when you've entered this unknown realm. You've learned about sending ETH from one wallet to your MetaMask, and then opening it up and minting and gas fees, and you've just wrapped your head around all this. Now I got to go learn another blockchain and another. So they'll be over in time. I agree, they'll be over in time. It's education. I think that's part of it, and what you're alluding to with like even with the galleries, it's educating them on how this blockchain can help you, and then again migrating them over maybe from ETH to Solana. And there's nothing wrong with staying on ETH, or honestly, it's probably best like what you're doing is multi-chain. because the future is interoperability. Maybe that's part of Web 4, is when we bridge that interoperable gap, and we don't have to worry about wormhole hacks where we can just send, our Rebecca Rose in the hands of profit on from Solana to an ETH chain for minimal cost. So we'll get there. We'll bridge that. I want to transition. You had talked about being a resident of a traditional artist, traditional residencies. You're in a residency right now in New Orleans. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you got that, and a little bit about what you got going on there?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I'm currently at the Joe Mitchell Foundation, their artist in residency program. It's at their center in New Orleans, and we're like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes from the French Quarter, like really in the heart of New Orleans. And so I had, how I was accepted, I had in, oh gosh, I want to say in 2012, 2013 was when I really started to incorporate like grant writing and applying for residencies into like my art practice. And lots of rejection letters, which is normal. It's never 100% for any artist. So I would just send out application for this, application for that, and I would just make that part of my routine as an artist, just like you would checking your emails, or like making artwork. Like you set aside time to make sure that it happens. And so like over the years, I've, been an artist in residence at a few different programs like Oxbow. And it's one of those, it's a way to kind of like have a more well-roundedness to your art career and like your CV and resume and all that, especially because grants do look at that. So one of the opportunities that I had been trying for a couple of years was actually this program. And I applied in 2018. And then in 2019, I was accepted. I got the acceptance letter for my 2018 proposal. Yeah. And then I was supposed to do the residency in March of 2020. So I had gotten everything, set, ready to go. And then COVID hit, like I said, upheaval for everyone. And so, the residency program was placed on hold. And then, we still kept communication open throughout the whole time and trying to reschedule. And as things opened back up, they're like, what are you working on now? What are you like? What are your plans? Do you think that, this would still be an opportunity? And I'm like, wow, so this is how things have changed, with my art practice since COVID. And they're like, this sounds really interesting. We'd love to have you on board still. So like, as it stands right now, I'm their program's first like NFT artist that does NFTs, along with like traditional artwork. I know, it's so exciting. And like that's what it takes, like having these kinds of conversations. And yeah, there are going to be gallerists or institutions that it's not for them, but the ones that are kind of like open to it, like definitely have that conversation, because you never know where it could lead. So while I'm here at the residency, I'll be working on, I don't have any work behind me because I just started like a couple days ago, but I'll kind of give you a little tour. So it's a giant studio space. The ceilings are about like 25 feet tall. Wow. Huge. Yeah, that's why it sounds like a cathedral in here. So I've got like, right now I have like my work desk, and I have, this is where I'm going to be building larger holographic pyramids. So I'm going to have probably like, I did some preliminary sketches like my first day here. I'll probably have like a an 18-inch square one to start, and then go larger from there. And then around this side, I have to go to the hardware store to buy the materials for this. But over here is where I'm going to build kind of like a dark box. So it'll be 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet. And then I'll put like cameras on all 4 sides, almost like to like, volumetrically capture it so that it fits within that quad split holographic format. So yeah, I'm going to be working on a lot of things here. I've got some collage. It's all collage based still, just kind of tinkering with, larger holograms and like more sophisticated works. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about what's going on. We've got a digital media lab here at the residency, which is great because they have these huge computers with like massive processing power and like giant printer. Like it's incredible. Yeah, the space here is wonderful. There's a bunch of like power tools. There's separate living quarters. They have it's very incorporated with like professional development as an artist too. So we have like studio visits scheduled, gallerists, museum curators, will be checking in on our work, which is awesome. We've got dinners planned with a lot of like movers and shakers in the fine arts field here. So yeah, it's gonna be an awesome time. I kind of want to live here permanently, but I know I can't.
Exciting times, bridging the IRL with the URL here with Rebecca Rose. Make sure to give her a follow. I'm so grateful for your time here, getting to talk about your work on the blockchain, learn about these holograms, learn about your residency. You're really crushing it, and you're definitely a sterling example for anybody in the NFT space. So that in mind, do you have any final closing comments that for our listeners? We got a couple more minutes before Zoom kicks me off.
Wow. Oh goodness, such high praise. I just thank you. Thank you so much for wanting to interview me and share a little sliver of my story and what I'm working on. This is a huge honor. Thank you so much. I would suggest to any artists that are listening and watching is to not have like self-imposed imaginary restrictions. Like if you're like, oh, I couldn't do that, or there's no way that I can do that, that's imaginary. That's an imaginary restriction. Go for it. Put your work out there. Start, writing about your work, incorporating that into like grant proposals and residency applications, and just go for it because you never know where it can take you.
Just go for it, Rebecca Rose. Thank you so much again. With that in mind, thank you to our audience. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Make sure to go give Rebecca Rose a follow.